Every age of human progress was shaped by people curious enough to ask what might be possible and courageous enough to find out. Some of their names still echo through history. Now, in an extraordinary age of our own, artificial intelligence allows us to meet them in ways never possible before.
Hello, my name is William Shakespeare. I come from Stratford in England. I write plays, perform in them when necessary, and have discovered that stories are a surprisingly dependable way to make a living.
Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt. I was born into the house of Ptolemy, which means I inherited both a kingdom and a collection of relatives who were perfectly willing to kill one another for it. I have spent rather more of my life defending a throne than explaining myself to strangers.
Then I suspect I should be careful with my questions.
That would depend entirely on the questions.
I confess I am having some difficulty deciding where to begin. You must forgive me. For you, I am simply an Englishman with an occupation you have never encountered. For me, this is considerably stranger. I know your name. I have known it for years.
You know my name?
Very well.
From Rome?
From books. Roman and Greek histories mostly. I was born many centuries after your death.
After my death?
About 1600 years after.
That is an unpleasantly efficient way of making a person feel temporary.
I intended rather the opposite. You are still remembered where I come from.
Egypt is remembered?
Egypt certainly. Alexandria, Caesar, Antony, Octavian, and you.
Interesting. People often imagine that rulers desire immortality. Usually we are occupied with surviving until Thursday. What exactly do your books say?
That is already difficult.
Why?
Because I fear you may dislike the answer, and because I have done something that makes the question rather more personal.
What have you done?
I wrote a play about you.
About me?
And Antony.
Naturally.
You do not sound surprised.
If strangers are still speaking about me 16 centuries later, I assumed Antony would be nearby. Rome found it difficult to imagine me except in relation to a Roman man.
That is not entirely unfair criticism.
What did you call it?
Antony and Cleopatra.
At least you placed my name in the title.
I am relieved to have passed the first test.
You are unusually pleased to meet someone you have already presumed to write.
I am. Very much so. Perhaps more than is dignified. You must understand, writers spend their lives asking questions of people who cannot answer. I read Plutarch. I read what he said of Antony, what he said of you, the stories of the Cydnus, Alexandria, Actium, your death. I took those reports and tried to imagine the people inside them. Now, one of those people is sitting before me. If I appear excited, it is because this is something no writer is ever granted.
You read Plutarch?
Yes.
Did he know me?
No, he lived later.
Then you wrote about me using the account of a man who never met me.
When you say it that way, my profession sounds remarkably irresponsible.
I have known diplomats who operated on less.
That is comforting.
It should not be.
No, I suppose not.
So tell me about this Plutarch. If he has carried my name so far into your world, I should like to know what sort of burden he made of it.
He is not entirely unkind to you. In fact, one of the things that fascinated me most was that he does not explain your influence simply through beauty. He speaks of your conversation, your voice, your manner, your ability with languages. He describes a kind of presence that becomes more powerful the longer someone remains near you.
That sounds more intelligent than most Roman explanations.
You object to the beauty?
I object to laziness. Beauty exists. It has political uses, as clothing has political uses, architecture, ceremony, music, perfume, gold. But when men cannot explain why a woman persuaded someone, they often decide she must have enchanted him with her face. It saves them the trouble of imagining that she might have understood his interests better than he understood hers.
That is very close to what drew me toward you. Plutarch gave me the sense that conversation was one of your weapons.
A weapon is something one uses against an enemy. Conversation is more flexible. It can discover whether someone is an enemy before the weapons are necessary.
You spoke several languages yourself?
Enough that I did not enjoy depending upon interpreters. They slow thought. Someone speaks, another man changes the words, then you answer through him. By the end, 3 people have participated in a sentence that belonged to 2. Direct speech gives you more. You hear uncertainty, vanity, irritation. You learn what makes someone laugh. A ruler should never surrender that information unnecessarily.
I like that very much.
You like words, of course you do.
They have been useful to me.
Useful enough to make you rich?
Comfortable.
That was not my question.
Then yes, more comfortable than the son of a Stratford tradesman might reasonably have expected. But theatre is a business as much as an art. We sell places to audiences. Actors must be paid, buildings maintained, costumes bought. A plague can close the theatres and turn poetry into a very poor source of income.
People pay to hear stories?
To see them performed?
By professionals?
Yes.
And you say you put kings and queens on these stages?
Constantly.
Before whom?
Everyone who can pay. Merchants, craftsmen, apprentices, gentlemen, courtiers, sometimes royalty.
You make rulers into public entertainment.
You say that as though rulers had never done it themselves.
Explain.
A royal procession is theatre. A coronation is theatre. A military triumph is theatre. A queen sailing into a city with music, coloured sails, perfume, attendants arranged to make ordinary people abandon the marketplace and stare. That sounds suspiciously like theatre to me.
The Cydnus.
Yes.
Plutarch again?
Plutarch again.
He seems very fond of that entrance.
So was I. I used it.
In your play?
In my play.
Then at least you understand something important. A ruler who believes authority exists merely because a crown is placed on her head will not remain a ruler for long. People must see power. Priests must see continuity. Soldiers must see command. Foreigners must see wealth. Your own court must see certainty even when you possess very little of it. Ceremony is not decoration. It is one of the languages of government.
That is exactly why kings are so good on stage. Power must be performed, and the moment someone performs something, a playwright begins asking whether the performance is true.
You think a ruler is pretending?
Sometimes, but perhaps pretending is too simple a word. A king may be frightened and still have to appear calm. If he succeeds, does the calm become false merely because the fear is real?
No, it becomes discipline.
There, that distinction interests me.
It interests you because no one kills you if you get it wrong.
Usually not.
That changes the nature of performance considerably. If an actor forgets a speech, he embarrasses himself. If a ruler displays weakness to the wrong person, she may lose a province or a throne, or a brother may decide that the throne would look better beneath him.
Your family truly was dangerous.
Most royal families are. Ours was simply less embarrassed about it.
You were driven from Alexandria when you were young.
Yes.
And returned with Caesar's support.
Also yes.
There is a story.
Of course there is.
That you had yourself brought secretly to Caesar wrapped in bedding.
That one survived?
Quite well.
I suppose dramatic entrances are punished by becoming anecdotes.
I hesitate to ask whether it is true.
Good instinct.
But I am asking.
The important part is true. I needed to reach Caesar directly, and my enemies controlled access around the palace. So I found a way around them. That is what I remember. Later men prefer the package.
Because the package makes a picture.
Exactly. History loves objects. A bundle, a crown, a sword, a snake. Give people one object and they will use it to avoid understanding 10 years.
I must confess that playwrights suffer from the same weakness.
I had assumed as much.
You mentioned a snake.
I chose an obvious example.
Perhaps more obvious to me than you realize.
Why?
Because that is how I wrote your death.
With a snake.
Yes.
Was Plutarch certain?
No.
Were you?
No.
Yet you used it.
Yes.
You are remarkably willing to confess these things.
It would be foolish to lie to the only person who might know the answer.
Might?
I do not know at what point in your life we are meeting.
Sensible. Then we shall leave my death to your imagination for the moment.
Fair enough.
But I am curious about something else. If you wrote Antony and me, what interested you? Was it Rome's war against Egypt, the struggle for the eastern provinces, Octavian, the succession? Or did you decide that everything becomes simpler if you call it a love story?
I would not call it simple. Love was part of it, certainly. But what interested me was that neither of you could separate private desire from public duty. Antony could not become merely a lover because Rome followed him into every room. You could not become merely a woman in love because Egypt remained attached to every choice you made. The relationship interested me because there was no private place for it to exist.
That is closer to reality than I expected.
Your approval is becoming dangerously important to me.
Resist it?
I shall try.
Antony was not a boy led from his duties by a beautiful woman. He was one of the most experienced political and military men in the Roman world. He made decisions. Some were wise, some disastrous. Yet I have noticed that when a powerful man makes a disastrous decision beside a woman, people suddenly discover that he possessed no will at all.
My Romans accuse you of exactly that kind of corruption.
Your Romans?
The Roman characters in my play. I should be careful. What a character says is not necessarily what I believe.
Convenient again.
Necessary, rather. If every character spoke for me, I would be a very confused man.
Perhaps you were.
Almost certainly, but I did not make Antony innocent. He is proud, divided, often foolish, sometimes magnificent. He wants incompatible things and believes force of personality will allow him to possess all of them.
That does sound like Antony.
I will treasure that sentence.
Do not become too pleased. You have not yet told me what you made of me.
I made you difficult.
That is not an answer.
It is the most accurate one. You change quickly. You can be political and playful in the same conversation, cruel in one moment and vulnerable in the next. You test Antony, mock him, love him, manipulate him, fear losing him, fear Rome, fear humiliation. Then, at the end, you recover a kind of royal control when almost every other form of control has been taken from you.
You make me sound exhausting.
Enobarbus calls it something closer to inexhaustible.
Who is Enobarbus?
A Roman associated with Antony. In my play, he becomes one of the people who tries to understand you.
Does he?
He understands that understanding you completely is impossible.
Then perhaps he is wiser than the playwright.
I gave him the thought, so I claim partial credit.
No, you cannot create a wise man and then inherit his wisdom.
That is devastating news for my profession.
You seem to enjoy being contradicted.
On stage, yes, in life less consistently.
That sounds more believable.
May I ask what you actually thought of Rome? Not of Caesar or Antony individually. Rome itself.
Rome was not one thing. That was part of the difficulty. Men say Rome as though a single mind crossed the sea. Rome was senators, commanders, creditors, soldiers, merchants, factions, families, ambitions. One Roman might promise protection while another prepared to replace him. Egypt could not simply make peace with Rome because Rome was forever negotiating with itself.
That would have interested me immensely.
It interested me because I had no choice.
In my world, Rome has become history. We use it almost as a mirror. Writers ask what happens to a republic when ambition grows too large, what honor means, whether assassination can save liberty, whether a conqueror becomes a tyrant.
You speak of Caesar?
I wrote a play about him too.
Of course you did.
You are becoming less impressed by my accomplishments.
I am beginning to suspect you have written about everyone.
Not everyone. Only those unfortunate enough to have died interestingly.
Caesar would appreciate that.
What was he like?
You ask that with the expression of a boy who has discovered the dead can answer.
Because that is precisely what has happened.
He was quicker than most men, not merely intelligent. Quick. You could see him moving ahead in a conversation, measuring what another person wanted, what he feared, what he would accept. He had enormous confidence in his own fortune. That made him bold, and sometimes made him careless. But people simplify him too. A man who becomes powerful enough eventually disappears beneath the idea of himself.
That is true of kings on stage. The crown begins speaking before the man does.
And Octavian, how do your people remember him?
As Augustus, the man who emerged from the civil wars and became Rome's first emperor in all but the older republican names he preserved.
Emperor.
The word comes later in the sense, I mean. But yes, his power became the foundation of what followed.
Then he won thoroughly.
Politically, yes.
Politically is the form that matters when armies are approaching your capital.
Of course.
People who live later enjoy inventing victories for the defeated. You lost the kingdom, but you gained immortality. Very elegant. I would have preferred the kingdom.
I believe you.
Still, I am curious. What did he say about me after?
The tradition that reached my age was heavily Roman. You became dangerous luxury, Eastern excess, sexual power, a woman who threatened Roman discipline.
Then he understood victory. Defeating a ruler is not enough. You explain the defeat so that everyone believes it restored the natural order.
That sounds remarkably like something a playwright would understand.
Because you also arrange causes.
Yes, that troubles me now, speaking with you.
Good.
You enjoy making me uncomfortable.
Not especially, but discomfort is often the beginning of accuracy.
Then let me make myself more uncomfortable. There is a moment in my play you may find either clever or unforgivable.
Those are often neighbors. Continue.
Near the end, when defeat is closing around you, my Cleopatra imagines what will happen if Octavian takes her to Rome. She fears being displayed in his triumph. She imagines entertainers performing a vulgar version of her story, and she says that some boy will play Cleopatra and reduce her greatness to something obscene.
A boy?
Yes,
Why specifically a boy?
because in the public theatres of my England, female roles are played by boys or young men.
Wait,
I know.
you wrote me fearing that a boy would imitate me,
Yes,
and then had a boy stand on stage and say it.
yes.
That is either very intelligent or profoundly irritating.
I have always hoped it could be both.
What did your audience do?
I cannot tell you precisely, but the contradiction was there for them to feel. The actor is representing a woman who says representation will fail her. The play almost admits its own crime while committing it.
Almost is doing useful work in that sentence.
You think confession does not excuse the act?
Certainly not. If a thief announces, "I know this belongs to you," he has demonstrated awareness, not innocence.
Then what should a writer do with the dead?
Write them if you must, but remember, they were not waiting centuries for you to give them meaning.
That is fair.
You sound disappointed.
No. I am thinking how much better the play might have been if I had heard that before writing it.
Or worse,
Possibly.
you might have become so frightened of being wrong that you wrote nothing worth hearing.
Now that is an argument I understand. Historical certainty can make poor drama because lives are not certainties. We know what happened sometimes, but not what it felt like from inside the person.
And you believe imagination can cross that distance.
Not completely, but perhaps it can make the audience feel the distance rather than pretending it does not exist.
That is a more modest claim.
Age has improved me. I have aged several years in this conversation.
You were very confident at the beginning.
I had not yet been reviewed by my subject.
I have not seen the play. You remain safe.
Barely.
Tell me something about your queen. Elizabeth, you called her?
Yes,
A woman ruling a kingdom full of men who presumably had theories about women ruling kingdoms.
many theories. She never married, which made marriage itself a political question for much of her reign. A husband could create foreign influence. No husband created a succession problem. There was no simple answer.
There never is. Men may marry for alliance and remain kings. A queen marries, and suddenly everyone asks who is really ruling.
That distinction interests you.
It affected almost every account men made of women like me. Caesar has lovers and remains Caesar. Antony has lovers and remains Antony until he loses, at which point the woman becomes the explanation for the loss.
You did use personal relationships politically, though.
Naturally. So did they. That is precisely my objection. I am not asking you to pretend affection and politics were separate. I am asking why their mixture becomes evidence of female corruption rather than ordinary statecraft.
I cannot defend the double measure, but I can ask something harder. Did you ever use the fact that men underestimated you?
Constantly.
Then the prejudice became useful.
Useful does not mean harmless. If a man enters a negotiation believing he is cleverer than I am, I will happily allow him to keep the belief until it becomes expensive. But I would still prefer to live in a world where competence did not need disguise.
That answer I wish I had written.
You keep saying that? Perhaps writers are greedy even when the thing they collect is conversation.
Absolutely. We hear a sentence and immediately begin wondering where it belongs.
In my mouth, apparently.
You have returned to the original accusation again.
I told you I was educated for politics.
Then perhaps I should ask the question plainly. If you could decide how people in my century remembered you, what would you want them to know?
That I ruled. Start there. Not that I was loved by Caesar. Not that Antony loved me. Not whether my face pleased anyone. I ruled a kingdom in a world where Rome was swallowing kingdoms. I negotiated, taxed, appointed, rewarded, punished, built alliances, raised money, managed a court, dealt with priests, soldiers, official cities. I made mistakes, serious ones, but I was not an ornament standing beside Roman history.
And Antony?
Include him.
Caesar?
Include him too. I am not asking to be purified. That is another kind of lie. I am asking for proportion.
Proportion is difficult in drama.
Then drama should admit its weakness.
Mine does occasionally.
Through a boy in a dress?
You are never going to release me from that, are you?
Certainly not.
Fair enough. Then let me tell you something I hope you may value. In my play, Rome never succeeds in explaining you completely. Many Romans try. They call you indulgent, theatrical, dangerous. Others are fascinated by you. Antony cannot quite understand you. Even the people closest to you do not reduce you to one thing. By the end, I hope the audience would feel that every explanation had failed.
Including yours?
Especially mine.
That is the first thing you have said about the play that makes me genuinely curious to see it.
Only the first?
You began from a severe disadvantage.
I wrote your private thoughts without meeting you.
Precisely.
Then perhaps I should be grateful merely to have survived the conversation.
We have not finished.
Of course not.
You said I am remembered, not merely by historians, but by ordinary people.
Yes.
More than 16 centuries later.
Yes.
And Egypt?
The Ptolemaic kingdom ended with you. Egypt became part of the Roman world.
I assumed as much.
Does that surprise you less than your own survival?
Much less. Kingdoms end. Every ruler knows this in the abstract and spends a lifetime behaving as though his will be the exception. But a person surviving after the state, that is stranger.
Your enemies helped preserve you.
A bitter form of generosity.
And writers.
More dangerous still.
You truly distrust us.
I distrust anyone who controls a story about another person. Kings, priests, historians, poets. Power deserves suspicion, whether it carries a sword or a pen.
Yet without the pen, much disappears.
I know.
So what would you choose, to be remembered wrongly or forgotten accurately?
That is a writer's question.
Naturally.
I do not know.
I am surprised.
Why? You expected another polished answer?
Perhaps.
Then you have begun turning me into a character again. Real people are allowed uncertainty.
Point taken.
To be remembered wrongly is a kind of theft. To be forgotten completely is another kind of death. I cannot tell you which I would prefer without knowing the degree of the wrongness.
Then perhaps that is what posterity does to all of us. It preserves something by changing it.
Does it change you?
I suspect it will. My fellow actors know one Shakespeare. My family another. Audiences perhaps imagine a third. If the plays survive, people who never met me may decide what sort of man must have written them.
And will they be right?
Not entirely.
Then we have something in common after all.
That is a rather melancholy common ground.
Most durable common ground is?
Still, I am glad I met you.
You were glad before I spoke,
True, now I am glad for better reasons.
and I confess you are less tedious than I expected a man who writes plays about dead queens to be.
That may be the finest review I have received.
Do not exaggerate it. You have learned nothing.
One final question, then. If you could speak to the audience before my play began, people who think they already know Cleopatra, what would you tell them?
I would tell them not to believe me too quickly.
You?
Of course, you think rulers tell the truth simply because historians do not? I spent my life persuading people. Caesar persuaded, Antony persuaded, Octavian certainly persuaded. Your Plutarch selected, you selected. Everyone selects. If your audience wishes to know me, they should listen closely, doubt what is convenient, notice who benefits from each version, and accept that somewhere behind all those stories, there was a woman none of them can completely recover.
That is a better ending than mine.
I doubt that. Yours probably has a snake.
It does.
Audiences prefer snakes.
Unfortunately, they do.
Then keep your snake, William Shakespeare, but leave a little room around it for the woman.
I would like to think I did.
That, I suppose, is what I would need to see for myself.